So the second part of today's lecture will be talking about organizing functions. In the first lectures, we talk about management has four functions, right? We talk about management functions including planning, organizing, leading, and evaluating. So organizing function is actually very important. It's the process of delegating and coordinating tasks and resources to achieve the objective. The organizing involves managers determines how to distribute the limit resources and arrange employees based on the plans. Right, you have to know as a manager, we're always working with very limited resources. So we need to learn how we are able to allocate this resource strategically in order to help the organization to follow the plan that we develop. Right. So as a manager, we have to identify the different roles, delegate authorities, assign awards, and provide directions. So the subordinates can work towards the plans without having barriers in that way. So identify roles. Basically, as a manager, you have to know how many people will be working in these teams. Delegate authorities means what levels of the decision make that each of the employee can make. Aside the word, aside word means that everyone have a very clear understanding what their daily duties are, and also provide directions. Is as a manager, you will always go and check the progress that they be making to make sure provide them useful information to help them to correct the mistake they have made. So this is the role as a managers in the organizing functions. The textbook asks you to look at some of the key concepts in organizing function, which include chain of command, span of the management and control, division of labor, departmentalization, coordinations, centralized and decentralized authorities, and delegations. So in today's lecture, I'm mainly going to focus on the four main concepts to help you understand a little bit about those concepts. So we start with the chain of the command first. What is the chain of command? So chain of command is the clear lines of the authority from the organization's top to its bottoms. So the chain of command can help us understand the hierarchical relationships among positions and also help us identify the formal path of the communications. So when we're looking at this diagram first, this is like an organizational chart, right? This diagram. If you're currently working in these organizations, right? So if you're currently a marketing coordinator, so this is your positions here. If you want to ask for extra money that to be used for the promotions of the new products that you just introduced to the markets, so who should you communicate with about this decision? So if you're here, marketing coordinator, who should you contact if you need extra money for promoting the products? So some people would say, should we contact finance and control coordinators? Right. So you cannot ask him for the money because this person actually had the same levels of the position as you are. So this person has no authority to give you the extra money that you need for promotions. So for the marketing coordinator, you will have to go and ask sports equipment division director and ask him whether it's possible for him to go and find out more resources that you can use in order to enhance your productivities, right? So you basically go and ask the director, and the director go and ask the finance and control department, say, hey, what's the budget for our department looks like this year? So do we have the extra money that we can use in marketing? If they say yes, and you will have, they will get approved, and then the finance and control coordinator would transfer the monies to you under his authorities. Right, so this is the process, the chain of command to help us understand the hierarchical relationship among all the positions within the organization. So you have a very clear understanding about who is your director, what situation that you're going to reach out to him, what kind of decision that you can make by yourself. but what kind of decision that you can't make by yourself, and you have to gather the permissions from your higher authorities to let them to make that decisions. Right, so this is also identified, we talk about formal path of the communications. Right, this is the communication process when you start working in the organization. Right, so you have to understand who is your direct leaders, and what situation you will have to go and ask him for his permissions to make a decision. Right, in what situation you can make your own decision. In what situation he can't make that decision, he will have to go and ask his managers, his boss, to help us to make that decision. So you have to go and figure out these relationships. So this is the purpose for chain of command, help us to have clear understanding about the authorities associated with different roles within the organizations. The second concept we're going to talk about is span of the management and control. So span of control refers to how many employees report directly to a managers. So we have two types of spans of control. We have narrow span of control. We also have a wide span of control. Right, narrow span control here is actually associated with a top organizational structures. Right, so when we look at narrow span of control, which is like top organization structure, you find out there are so many different levels of the manager involved within the organizations. Right, so for this kind of structure, they have some benefit. They also have some issue associated with that. So one of the biggest benefit is it can increase the levels of the communications between the manager and members, right? Because each of the manager only work with two employees, right? So enhance the communication between them. So enhance the good understanding between them. Right, so that's a pretty positive associated with this tall organization structure, also narrow span of control. Right, so another big advantage is also enhance the control for the top regulations over the entire organization, because you have so many levels of the managers helping you managing the organization, so making sure the organization is in the right track. So you always can keep update about everyone, every department, what they've been doing, right? So you can control these organizations really well, right? But the problem is in terms of decision making process, it takes forever to make a decision, right? Particularly you want to get approve it from the top division, top managers, so they would take forever to make a decision. So the decision-making process is long, right? Sometimes could be very ineffective, right? They also create some communication barriers since there are so many managers got involved into the entire positions, right? Another disadvantage associated with the top organization structure is it less motivated some of the employees because they don't have a lot of freedoms, right? Because you work really closely with your managers, but you don't really have you're not giving a lot of freedom to do your work. So that's a advantage and disadvantage associated with the narrow span of control. So wide span of the control, sometimes this type of situation happen in the flat organizational structure. So the flat organizational structure, so as you look at here, right? So we have less managers involved into the entire decision-making process. So every employee, every manager, you'll be working with multiple different employees. So for this kind of situation, what the biggest benefits is compared to top organizational structure, this one is less expensive because you recruit less managers within the organizations. So it's less expenses, right? And also most of the employees are working in the same level, so they can collaborate with each other with very clear delegation of the duty. And also sometimes it's a faster, clear communication from the top managers to the bottom managers. You don't have to go through so many different levels of the managements. So intensive communication could be quicker, right? So when you say something very easy, the message could be delivered to the bottom employees. And also less supervisions and control can really create a positive attitudes among employees who appreciate the trust and freedoms. We also talk about decision-making processes quicker compared to the top organizational structure, right? So those are the advantages related to a wide span of control. But we also are facing some problems. The managers have to have less time for planning because you spend so much time enhancing the communication with your employees. You were really close with them, but you have less time for plannings, right? You also have the chance of lose control because there are so many subordinates under one manager. It's easy for you to lose control. So those are the problem associated with the wide span of control. So wide span of control, again, refer to how many employees report directly to a managers. So narrow span of control, right, normally is under the top organization structure, decision-making process is long, but easy for you to control the whole things, right? The wide span of control, decision-making process is quick, but sometimes it could be easy to lose control, right? So this is about span of management and control. Other concepts, like division of labor, they occur when the jobs are organized by specialties, right? So example is like if you're currently working in university, you have a issue with your computers. So the first thing you can think about is now you're going to ask your department chair, say, hey, can you help me fix the computers, right? You're definitely going to ask the IT specialties, right? The reason we are hired people who work in the IT department because they deal with these technologies related issues, right? So we division of labor is basically we recruited people based on their specialty and they're doing a special job based on their qualifications, right? For instance, if you want to know if you have some issue with your salary that you made last month, you might reach out to the finance department and ask them, hey, why I made like $200 less compared to my previous salaries, because they know more about it. Right, so this is a division of labor that is about specializations. Coordination is the process of integrating tasks and resources to meet this objective. So people from different roles might need to work together to solve the problems and issues together. I'll give you an example. If we would like to create new positions, we would need to ask finance department to see how much money we have for recruiting, right? We will ask human resource management to devise these positions on these related websites, right? To get involved with the interview process. And also, we need to get approval from the higher managers and ask them for the extra support, right? So in order to hire a person, not just like quick decision we can make, is so many of the departments, they're doing different jobs and work together to get this project done, right? So this is about coordinations. Classification and responsibility means every person's responsibility in the organizations are clearly defined, right? So if you have two people working as a group, sales coordinator in a professional sports team, so their responsibility could be pretty similar, but they have a very clear boundaries, right? Maybe employee A is work with those clients, employee B with different clients, right? So you have to have a very clear distinctions between different employees, although they are doing very similar job. Same, if you work in the sports media industry, right? Maybe you have 30 reporters in your departments. Their job duties are very similar, right? Deliver contents, reported news, but they might cover very different team, different sports. So they have a different types of responsibility and duty. So you need to have a very clear clarifications in terms of their responsibility and authorities. So the reason for this is that we try to minimize the conflict between employees, right? You don't want like two reporters, they cover two different sports and going to the same events. They're fighting for each other's, right? So it's not gonna good for you. Delegations involve assigning the responsibility and authority for achieving, for accomplishing the objective, right? So delegation is talking about as a managers, you're so capable to do a lot of different things, but you have to learn how you be able to assign the right task to the right peoples. So, for instance, if you're currently working at the sponsorship departments as a manager, so two companies reach out to you at the same time. They want to discuss with you about these potential opportunities to be the sponsor of your teams. So obviously you have very tight schedules, unlikely for you to go through detail with every potential sponsors. So you will have to learn how you be able to assign these tasks to the right peoples and ask them to work with these potential clients and then report back to you, let you know about the process. Right, so once the negotiation is done, you also need to work with this legal department to work through these agreements together. Right, so this is about delegations, assign the tasks to the right people, and this process give them the confidence that hey, we are able to do things by ourselves, right? So because we got the trust for our managers and help them grow as employees, and also for you, you release the pressures, right? But as a manager, you also have to provide the directions, make sure they're not making the mistakes, make sure they can help you complete this task, right? So this is like a win-win. Delegation is important to be a managers. So flexibility is involved. You have to understand there often exception to the your roles. So you will have to do something maybe not related to your daily duties. So for instance, when I was working as a sports reporter, sometimes I was asked by finance business news department to help them to cover some business news. Right, so covering business news is not my daily duties, but I have to help them cover because that's something that's about flexibilities. Right, just here working at a university is the same. If my colleague is sick, he's not be able to make it to the class. He asked me to help him cover one or two lectures. I would go and help him cover one or two lectures. Right, again, this is not my duty. Right, so but I need to be flexible to do something that is not my daily routines. So this is about some of the key concepts in organizing. We're going to spend a little time to talking about another two topics. The first one is organizational chart. So we all have to learn how to create organizational chart because it is a diagram that really shows the structures of the organization and the relationship among the different positions and the jobs. I'm showing you Miami University organizational chart. So it was created in 2017. So from the organizational chart, you'll be able to look at the levels of the management authorities, chain of commands, right, division of the type of the work, and departmentalizations. Right. So if you work at Miami University, right, you find out from this organization chart, they let you understand who's the most powerful person in the university, right? Obviously is president, right? President, but it's also have to report it to board of trustee, right? So if you're currently working as the AD, athletic departments, right? So AD, who do you need to report it to? Your presidents, right? You have to report it to the presidents. If you are associate VP and general consult, and you also have to report it to the presidents, right? So from this organization chart, people can understand about relationships among all the different positions, and also give you the better idea about what the structure of these organizations looks like, right? So it's actually pretty crucial and important. So when you are creating the organization chart, so you need to make sure most of the organizations they are really hierarchical, right? And also to make sure in your organization chart, people can easily identify every person's responsibilities and also have a very clear understanding about they are reportive relationships. So who's having a better roles, right? So this is about organizational chart. And the last topic that we're going to talk about today is about departmentalization. So most of the organization has been grouped together and work together with different departments. So departmentalization is grouping those related activity into unit. So they may have an internal focus or they may also have an external focus. So first one is a functional organized department, which is the most common way how we are able to grouping people together into different department based on their functions. So most of the organizations they may have the like sales department, that marketing department, finance departments, like production department, human resource departments, right? They have different departments. They have a very clear rules in terms of what they have to be doing every single days, right? So their jobs function are very, very similar to another, so that's why they combine them together. I'll give you a quick examples here. If you have some money right now, you would like to create a fitness centers in Oxford. Based on your budget, you understand you can recruit 6 people, right? So which 6 people are you going to recruit? What role would you create for your own business, right? Creating fitness centers in Oxford, Ohio, recruiting 6 people. So which 6 role would you create for your own business? Think about it. If you're a manager, 6 people only, right? So some people say, oh, first of all, I would like to have trainers, right? That's important, right? I would have trainers there, helping the clients, right? So you might want to have daily operators, so you have to think about how we are able to create their jobs. So maybe they're there to oversee the entire facilities and helping with check-ins, and also helping the people who sign up for the memberships, who want to know more about the memberships, right? So you possibly need to have someone who will be responsible for marketing. Now social media pretty popular, has been used by a lot of fitness centers. You have someone responsible for marketing and social media, right? You sell as an owner, right? So you possibly want to hire someone who is able to do human resource management, to evaluate the employee's performance, and also who's actually a legal expert as well, right? So you possibly also need someone who is responsible for financial functions, right? So help you purchase equipments, um, help you to oversee the daily supply, purchase, and also oversee how this money has been spent, right? So when you create these fitness centers, have your own business, so a lot of time we're using function to create jobs, right? So for these types of the functional organized department, the benefit is simple, straightforward. Specialization, everyone understand about their roles, and easy to provide training and also control the process, and easy to supervise, right? Particularly good for the small and stable business. But the problem is, in terms of the major decision-making process, it may take longer time, and also it's hard to coordinate things together because everyone has a very clear responsibilities, right? And so those could not be pretty suitable for those really dynamic organizations that you have to change all the time, right? Another example for the function organization, organized departments, using function organized department is a MFL. So when you look at MFL, so headquarter, so they don't have a lot of employees, so they all based on the function, right? Based on the function, grouping all the similar work together, right? It has a communication and public affairs. You have administrations, labor relations, have finance, MFL network, MFL international, and sales and marketing, right? There's all based on functions. So this is about internal departmentalization. We also have external departmentalization that including like product and service departmentalizations, customer departmentalization, and geography and territory departmentalizations, right? So that really based on the features of your organizations. So for the product departmentalization, so they're suitable for the business. They're producing multiple different products. So they're not just providing one product, but they have a lot of different product lines, right? So each of the department normally based on the products, and also produce manager has authority to carry out the functional activity for his departments. We're using Reebok as example, right? Reebok. So under Reebok, there are 4 different types of the department, right? One is mainly responsible for Reebok brand, and Reebok also merged Grey Normans. They have produced product Grey Norman collections. Grey Norman, some people might know, he's a really well-known golfer for Australia. right? So they all have responsible for Ralph Lauren's footwear as well. So they purchased Ralph Lauren's footwears in 2010. So they are now also responsible for Ralph Lauren's footwear. And also they have a separate business called Raw Paul Company, right? So they based on the product line, put them into different departments, right? The second time is called customer departmentalization. It's based on customers' interest and need, right? They normally have a very clear identification of the customers, and also their need is based on is the basis of the departmentalization. Example is like a lot of financial service here, right? So they based on different types of customers, right? They have a car loan, they have a housing loan, they have electronic loan, they have a commercial loans. So based on different customers' need and demand, they classify them into different departments. The benefit for this kind of this departmentalization is really help with the customers, help customers with their particular need, right? So it's really customer oriented and also have the specializations. So the last part of the departmentalization is based on geography, right? So organization, you create departments that close to customers in that particular area because they are geographically different, right? So example is Canada Basketball, right? That is association. So they oversee 5 different areas, the development of basketballs. They're based on their province, right? So based on their different customer in different area may have a different need and interest. So they will classify like this. So some big organizations like Nike, so they might combine more than one types of departmentalization like we just discussed previously. So after financial crisis in 2009, so Nike made some changes using max departmentalization, right? They combine geography and their product departmentalization together. Nike produced a lot of different products: running, soccer, basketball training, fitness, sports culture, and others, right? But they all Nike is a global business that been operating in 100 countries in the world. So they based on the different markets. They all have a different departments. North America, Europe divided by Eastern Europe, Western Europe, China, Japan, and some emerging markets. Right. So they're using two combined models to just enhance the quality of the management to make sure each section is able to achieve the goal, and at the end they will help the organization achieve the goal as a whole, right? So this is about departmentalization. So in today's class, so basically 3 sections, right? We start with talking about the theories that are related to the organization theory and how the organization theory has been applied in the sports industry. The second big part, we're talking about organizational function. We introduce some terms and also be mainly focusing on organizational chart and the departmentalizations. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and do not forget to complete today's assignments. All right, that's it today. Hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.